we probably should have done just a reaction show last night because you would have gotten a lot more interesting probably takes from me fresh off the loss versus 24 hours, not quite 24 hours, but essentially 24 hours to swallow it, go to the wilds today, have a good time with the family, and cool down some. But it was a hell of a game. I am good today. The Bengals play tonight. I'm hoping they can salvage my football weekend. The Guardians salvage my sporting weekend by advancing to the ALCS. So very happy about that. And like I said, it was a good day at the Wilds. Got to see some pretty exquisite animals like rhinos, and we had an ostrich pecking at us, so that was pretty cool. So how are you today, Ryan?
Clinton, I'm fantastic. I am up several $100s on my NFL bets today, so I'm having a great day today. It was probably as fun as it would have been to do a live reaction show last night when everything was fresh and I still had all of this on the tip of my tongue. I think you might have gotten us kicked off of YouTube last night.
I did text you and say I'm staying off Twitter for 48 hours, which I have been back on because I'm calmed down. But I was pretty hot in reading how people are ignorant after games. Pissed me off, so I just turned it off.
I don't know that there's a fan base that has more of these like anonymous fan Twitter accounts than Ohio State. And one of them tweeted, everyone always shits on Ohio State when we win or when we lose. That's how I know we're elite. I'm like, no, everyone shits on you when you lose because you're all stupid, annoying people.
Mm-hmm. Like, you got a comment already.
Oh, this should be
Who's
fun.
with us?
Depressed Lions fan. Oh, no, Benny. Yes. Depressed Lions fan checking in. Everyone got a spare defensive end we can borrow.
What happened? Did I miss something?
Yeah, don't look at the injury, man. Aiden Hutchinson broke his leg. It was bad. It was
man.
like, do you ever watch MMA?
Yes, I've seen it before. I've seen some gruesome injuries.
Do you remember? It was like 10 years ago when Anderson Silva snapped his leg in half trying to do a shin kick.
I think so. Yes.
It was that. It was that.
And that sucks. Sucks for the Lions. Sucks for Hutchinson personally. He's been a fantastic defensive end in the NFL. Are the Lions still up? They were up big last I saw.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
It happened.
So you're going to get the win, but to help soften the blow. But
no, I think
that is huge for them.
I think that was part of the issue is they were up by like 30 points at halftime, and it happened like midway through the third quarter when the game was already well over. Yeah, I've decided that I'm bandwagoning the Lions this year just being in Michigan. I'm like, I don't care about an NFL team, so you know what? Enjoy the ride. It's kind of one of those things that they've been so bad for so long. Detroit sports are just, especially now that the Red Wings stink, has just been kind of like, what's the old Cleveland, the factory of sadness? Detroit's riding right there with them, man. So we decided I'm not.
Dan Campbell, I would take that guy as the Bengals coach 1 million times over.
I love Dan Campbell.
Yes. I'd trade Zach Taylor and T. Higgins to have Dan Campbell, and probably some more players. I would love to have Dan Campbell coaching my team.
Coach. He is a very good football coach.
Has nuts of steel and is afraid of nothing. And if he messes up, he owns up to it. And he does not shy away from any screw ups he has, which not many coaches do. And I applaud that.
And that's how you get your players to play hard for you. Plain and simple. You go out there and you get in the shit with them and don't try to act like you're above it or below it or anything like that.
He still looks like he could go take some reps at linebacker, personally.
Yes, he is a scary looking dude for sure. So that's a unfortunate break for the Lions today. And thinking of
no pun intended.
Hutchinson, that not great. So thinking of Hutchinson, I mean, if anyone's going to come back from that, it's going to be him. So on to the football, Clinton, the main event of the evening. Oregon 32, Ohio State 31. Holy smokes, this one had me on the edge of my seat from the opening kickoff, man. There was no lull in this one. It was all gas, no brakes. Right from the first drive of the game, we had controversy. We had big plays. We had questionable calls. Why are we not reviewing this? Why are we reviewing that? And it did not stop. It did not let up from the time we kicked off to the time that it hit double zeros with Will Howard sliding to the turf with no time left on the clock. Every minute of this game was breakneck, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. If you were to kind of script up a perfect game just from like a cinematic standpoint, it would have been this. I kind of unironically asked Dale, or actually it was a little ironic, ironically asking Dale, like, is Oregon like hoodwinking us? Is this a long con that they're playing here? And goddamn, it turned out it was, man. They were taking shots down the field. They were throwing deep balls. They were doing stuff we hadn't seen this year. It was an incredible offensive display in this one from Oregon. I have a lot of thoughts on this, but I know you were you had some things you wanted to get off your chest. So I'm just gonna, much like you afforded me the Florida rant about Notre Dame a couple of weeks ago, I am gonna afford you as much time as you need.
Well, I'm going to give props to Oregon first. Well, let me give props to the game. This was a phenomenal game. And I know everybody loved that Bama-Georgia game, which was elite, right? But this game literally was a game from start to finish.
Yes.
We went to halftime of Bama-Georgia and thought, holy shit, does Georgia suck?
Yep.
They're getting their doors blown off. And truth be told, they might suck because they struggle with Mississippi State, and Alabama looks like a bottom 25 team. So maybe these are the two best teams in the country. I don't know. But props to Oregon. They came out. Evan Stewart finally showed up.
Yep.
We've been waiting for that. We've commented on that for weeks. Duncan Dillon finally hit some deep shots.
He was not dunking on this one.
He wasn't dunking 12-ounce coffees. He was going 24-ounce coffees. And I think that's part of the thing. Oregon uses a ton of motion, which is by design to confuse the defense. And boy, did they confuse Ohio State at times. I also want to get Jordan James's name out there. He needs to be talked about as one of these top Big Ten backs that we talk about every week. The dude runs with force and power and aggression. He looks like he's pissed off every time he runs the ball. Oregon's offensive line did a really nice job blocking Ohio State. We'll get to that pass rush in just a second, though. And then the Oregon D-line finally got a little pressure on Howard in the second half. They did have one sack, but I believe that's counted towards them. But that was the one Will Howard kind of slipped and fell on his own accord.
Yes.
So they get a sack for that. So kind of, sort of. But impressive. Gabriel, he looked like the Dylan Gabriel we saw come out and play against Texas last year, which was big game Dylan, and he had a really nice game. Let's get to the Ohio State side. Will Howard. Everybody's question mark was Will Howard in this game, including mine. Will Howard exceeded my expectations. I don't care about in the last play. It happened, whatever. Will Howard played really well. And if Kyle McCord was on this team, Ohio State probably loses by double digits because of the plays Will Howard made with his legs. Not only did he get out of some tough situations with runs, he was mobile enough to roll out and extend the play and hit Jeremiah Smith for the touchdown. Henderson looked really explosive. Judkins was a little more hit or miss in this game. He did not look, let's say, the way he had in the past few weeks. Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka, they continue on these monster games. I mean, you cannot slow Jeremiah Smith down, and you cannot slow Egbuka down. The offensive line did pretty well, despite losing Tegra Shabola for the first half. He did come back in later. But losing Josh Simmons at left tackle definitely hurt them. I believe Mihalski's grade was below a 30 on PFF for pass blocking for the rest of the game that he was in. It sounds like Simmons is done for the year. No listing of what the injury is yet, but sounds like he's done for the season. We'll get an update as the week rolls on. They also lost Will Kazmarek on that opening drive. You were talking about the interception. He broke his arm, which is what led to the questionable possible INT. He couldn't hold on to the ball because when he hit the ground, he broke his arm.
Yeah, I just saw sling. I didn't realize it was that. Holy.
It is a broken arm, so he's probably done for a fair amount of time. Now let's get to the defense. Where do I start with this? I'm going to start positive. Linebackers, you played pretty good. That was probably the biggest question mark we had on this defense coming into this game was young linebackers. Cody Simon played well. Sonny Styles looked good. Tackling sucked, though, as an entire defense. Ohio State's D-line. Let's dig in there. Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimoloau, you were always billed as the 5-star athletes on this team. How you're so great. You have spurts and moments during these games where you look like what you should be. Then it comes to the big games, and you do nothing for me. You generated some pressure on Gabriel, I'll give you that. But there are no sacks. He had so much time to throw during these games, which allowed him to hit those deep shots. You guys are the leaders of this team. You came back for a reason. You said this. You came back for a reason. But we didn't hear anything from you in the biggest game of the season. You were absent. I don't remember hearing Tuimoloau or Sawyer's name called other than just when Tuimoloau bit really hard on the read option fake. I don't remember hearing Sawyer's name called at all. I don't know if I heard Sawyer at all.
Two assisted tackles, Clinton. 2. That's it. That's it.
You cannot have your big game defensive ends not show up. The kid that needs to be playing, and I'm telling you right now, he's a stud and he's aggressive and he would get after the passer, is Caden Curry. And he's DE 3 or 4 right now. His ass should be on that field in any pass rush situation because I'm telling you what, he will get sacks. He's the one that chased Gabriel down. He rolled up behind him and cut him, and Gabriel got like 1 or 2 yards. But if that wasn't for Curry's effort, Gabriel probably runs for a first down. That kid needs to be on the field. Let's get to the DBs. Denzel Burke. Your D-line did you no favors because they could not get pressure. But my man, could you please cover somebody? I get that Stewart hit you with a really hard stutter step, and you looked in the backfield, and you bid on it, and you tried your darndest to catch up to him. But, brother, you got cooked numerous times in this game. Let me pull up this for you here. First of all, I want to go over, I have a new name for Denzel Burke, and his name is now Denzel Burnt because he got toasted so many times in this game. But let's look at Denzel Burke's final stat line according to PFF. Denzel Burke was targeted 8 times. He gave up 8 catches for 179 yards. The 2 TDs given up, he gave up 2 TDs, the longest being a 69-yarder. Dylan Gabriel, when targeting Burke, had an NFL QB rating of 158.3. Denzel Burke's overall coverage grade, 37.7%. Bro, you are out of my complete discussion about first-round corners. Get out of here now. You have to earn that back. And I don't know when you're going to get a test to earn that again because Penn State doesn't have anyone to challenge you. Michigan doesn't have anyone to challenge you. You're going to have to get all the way back to the Big Ten Championship and redeem yourself against this team if it happens. That was pathetic. You are a 4th-year senior on this team. You're supposed to be the leader, and you got cooked. Davidson Igbinosun, thank you. You had 1 penalty, but you played well. Jordan Hancock, iffy. We talked about pre-show. This was the first game that Hancock played a plethora of snaps, just given what Ohio State's been facing. So I can give him a little leeway there. But poor tackling, Denzel Burnt, and the shitty pass rush is the reason Ohio State stands here today at 5-1. Ryan, you brought this up. If Ohio State even sacks Gabriel once or twice, they probably win the game because the times they couldn't get pressure was on the deep passes. Now, let me get on Jim Knowles here for a second. Jim Knowles, you are paid $2 million a year to run this defense. And hot damn, you earn a nice 10% of that when you play all these other teams that you're far athletically superior to, which is pretty much everybody, except Michigan the past few years, Georgia, and now Oregon. Let's go over this. Jim Knowles in top 5 games at Ohio State. That's just top 5 games, guys. There's probably some other things there. 2022 Michigan, Jim Knowles' defense gives up 530 yards. 2022 Georgia gives up 533 yards. 2023 Michigan, 338 yards. 2024 Oregon, 496 yards. That's a total of 1,897 yards in 4 games and 149 points. You lost all of those. So people want to shit on Ryan Day so much and put the blame on him. You know who performs every single week? Ohio State's offense. They show up and they play. You know who doesn't? The defense. If you want to get your goal of a national championship, and let's rewind this, let's just get a goal of a Big Ten championship first, you better fix this shit because Penn State's going to be a top 5 matchup, barring a loss to Wisconsin in 2 weeks, which at this point may happen. You better get your crap fixed before you travel to Penn State in 3 weeks because you will lose again if your defense does not figure this out. Congratulations, Oregon, though. Hell of a win. Hell of a win.
For Matthew in the chat, Tyler Warren on Denzel Burke is what I'm hearing. Bingo.
Yeah, that's going to be hilarious. Unfortunately, Jordan Hancock will be the one covering him. Jordan Hancock or Caleb Downs.
We're going to talk about Tyler Warren in a minute because he's fun as hell. He's super fun, and I don't want to ignore that. But coming into this game, I don't know why I backed off my preseason prediction of saying that Oregon was going to beat Ohio State in this game and then Ohio State would win the rematch. I should have stuck to my gut. And I thought Ohio State was going to win this game because I was fooled by what we had seen from Oregon the last 5 weeks heading into this game, and it turns out they were just kind of going through the motions, probably. But leaving this game, I don't even want to say if that's the best, because another thing that's bugged me about this is the Ohio State fans on Twitter being like, we beat ourselves. I'm like, neither team played a particularly clean game. There were mistakes on both sides.
Absolutely.
Oregon played this entire game without their best defensive player, Clinton, and they still won.
Second best receiver to this point, Stewart popped off,
Yes.
but who stupidly spit in David Igmanoson's face. He deserves to be suspended. I'd kick his ass off the team because you damn near cost us a game.
Yeah, and apparently other injuries at receiver. So I think I saw that it was 3 of their top 5 receivers they were not playing with. And they still won. So, like, none of this we beat ourselves nonsense, blah, 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 blah. No, that's quick whining about shit like that. It's ridiculous.
We lost a tough game.
Yes,
okay.
There's no shame in that. There's no shame. Like, this wouldn't be a disqualifying loss for Ohio State.
This wasn't Notre Dame losing to NIU, damn it.
No. But even in a 4-team playoff, this wouldn't have been a disqualifying loss for Ohio State.
You'd still be there.
Absolutely not. It like, you take care of business. You get back, you get to Indianapolis, you have a chance to play for a first-round bye, and at worst, you're going to be a 5 or a 6 seed with a home playoff game. So, like, there needs to be no freaking out, or I get there's going to be, like, the big picture talk, because what's Ryan Day now against top 5 teams, 1-7 or something like that?
Well, he has a SportsCenter or ESPN put out the stat. I think it's 2-7, 2-8, something like that. He has another win. So someone's not counting something against Clemson or something. I don't know.
So I get that there's like this narrative around that, but you kind of, I don't want to say dispelled that, but you put some context to that there for us. So I don't really want to dig into that at all. But if this is like a 90th percentile performance for both of these teams, like if this is among the best that they can offer, I'm very confident in saying these are 2 of the 3 to 4 best teams in the nation. We don't talk the SEC, so I'm not going to get into Bama and Georgia, but that's a whole other can of worms. But I mean, the saving
Texas
grace
looks good.
Texas looks good. And that's maybe the saving grace for Ohio State is you played one of 3 teams in the country who can stress you athletically. So then they got you. It happens. Shit happens. That being said, Oregon answered a lot of questions for me in this game for sure. That's a good team. They're going to be a problem going forward as long as they take care of their own business. Heading into this game, I think if you were stacking the 4 position groups on the field, both offenses, both defenses, what would you have said the best individual unit was coming into this game? Ohio State defense, without question?
Oh, you mean, yeah.
Just between these two teams.
Honestly, if I really truly think about it, I would probably have said Ohio State's off.
Don't truly think about it.
I probably would have said Ohio State's offense because I know how this team plays in big games with defense. I've watched it.
That's fair.
I've watched these performances. I know what happens. Now, I'm a fan, and I fool myself into believing that it won't happen because I love my team. But I believed in Ohio State's offense, and they played great.
Well, so that's the point that I want to get to is this is an Ohio State defense that's been billed as the best defense in the country, best in America, whatever that stupid slogan is. You know, they look the part when they play Big Ten teams because the Big Ten stinks on offense as a whole. Like, I remember this distinctly being a conversation around Michigan and Ohio State last year when they were, top 5 in every defensive category. They're like, are these defenses good? Or does the Big Ten just suck offensively and they're teeing off on teams that can't compete with them? And then Michigan did well at dispelling that in the playoff by shutting down Alabama and Washington. Ohio State did not do that in this game. So coming into this game, like if I were to like gun to my head, I would have told you I think Ohio State's defense is the best individual unit on the field because I don't have that scar tissue that you have, and I'm not gonna dig too deep into Ohio State because I don't want to. Coming out of this game, I think they might be the fourth out of 4. Like I probably have a little bit more confidence in Oregon's defense and definitely both offenses than I do Ohio State's defense right now. Which in the short term is not a problem for Ohio State again. Like if you look at the rest of their regular season schedule, I do not say this to disparage Penn State's offense at all, but they do not have Tyler Warren is fun. The running backs are incredible. Drew Aller's definitely improving. They do not have the dudes out wide to be able to stress Ohio State's defense in the same way that Oregon did. They can certainly stress it in other ways. I'm sure Andy Kotelnicki is going to be going through this game film seeing how did they take advantage of these guys and what can I do to do that? And he does that a lot. They had Tyler Warren snap a ball on a play that he caught a touchdown pass. Don't tell me that's not going to be a problem for Ohio State's defense. Yeah. We were having this conversation beforehand, and I think Ohio State's defense, it's like there's a large component that they're so good because of who they play. Like they don't have to be schematically better than you in the Big Ten because nobody has the athletes to go up against them. You just go out there and be like, hey guys, go run cover 2, cover 3, whatever, blitz every now and then and play football. And you're going to shut down every Big Ten team, aside from Michigan the last 3 years. Now you got Oregon coming in, and to a lesser extent USC and Washington. But I mean, we've seen what those offenses can be at their best. And all of a sudden you have teams that are built in a different way who can stress you athletically. For the rest of the regular season for Ohio State, looking at their schedule again, I don't think Penn State's going to necessarily be able to take advantage of this defense in the same way. As much as I like Indiana and their scheme, I don't think that those athletes are going to be on the same caliber that we saw with Oregon. And I mean, it could be a fun game, but I don't think Ohio State's necessarily going to have trouble dispelling the Hoosiers. Michigan can't throw a forward pass right now, so I don't think they have to worry about that. So then you get back to the Big Ten title game, and I mean, regardless of what happens there, I mean, it's more of a fan sentimental thing at that point anyway, because you get to the Big Ten title game, you're in the playoff. It's whether or not you're playing a first-round playoff game or you get the bye. But even if you look like, so how I would classify Ohio State's defense, I would say they have a playoff caliber defense. I don't think they have a national championship caliber defense, because if you look, like if they play, let's say hypothetically they lose the rematch to Oregon. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but for the sake of this argument, let's say. So they're what, the 6th seed in the playoffs, so they're playing a home game against probably like a Penn State LSU-ish team in the first round. I don't think they have any problem with that. I don't think those teams are good enough offensively to stress Ohio State's defense. Okay, that's great. Then who do you get in the second round here as the 6th seed? ACC,
Texas.
They won't get Texas. You'll get the You'll get the 3. If you're the 6th seed, you get the.
You get the 3. Yeah.
Clemson or Miami. We've seen Clemson against a good defense this year. I don't necessarily think that they're going to be able to stress it. Miami could be potentially. They got athletes, but Cam Ward is they're a walking loss waiting to happen right now. And Cam Ward, you never know what you're going to get. Okay, so you get through that probably no problem. Well, then you got to play Oregon again, or you have to play Texas, or you have to play Alabama, you have to play Georgia. How are you going to get over that hump? If you win that game, you have to beat 2 of those 4 teams twice to win a national championship. Do you think this defense is capable of doing that twice? Because I sure as hell don't.
At this point, no.
They look like
you have to make the changes. I think, and it's kind of the same thing I've said with the Bengals, not to this bad of an extent, but in the Bengals scenarios, and I know this is the NFL, the Bengals are one defensive stop away from every single game and they'd be undefeated. One defensive stop. So I roll this to Ohio State. In those scenarios, I don't think those teams are going to stop your offense very much. And we talked about this a little pre-show about Oregon and Ohio State. Ohio State did stop themselves on offense. Will Howard had a botched snap that they then had to punt the ball away. They had a penalty-laden drive that then forced them, I believe, to punt. I don't know if Oregon stopped Ohio State's offense. And I don't know truly. I mean, Ohio State had a few stops. But Oregon might have had some errors in there, too, that led to that. Like Dylan Gabriel not seeing Tez Johnson wide open for a touchdown. I think they could do it once. But how often does luck strike twice? You know, I think the offense would have to play a perfect game. I think maybe a scenario where a Quinn Ewers or a Gabriel or a Carson Beck or Milrow gives them a turnover, like throws a bad pick that you just can't miss, then maybe they get it. But I think the offense would have to be perfect or damn near perfect to get it done. They'd have to score almost every time because you don't know when this defense is going to give up the big play. You don't know when it's going to happen. Every time I watched the rest of the game, I'd look where Burke was, and the mother effer was in single man coverage almost the whole rest of the game. I'm like, Knowles, can we just put Caleb Downs or Lathan Ransom over the top so we get a little safety help? Casey's looking in the backfield again. Lord only knows why. You're getting torched. I think you should just focus on your man. But we didn't do that. So his role is 5 big plays or less. Well, the problem becomes if 2 or 3 of those big plays go for touchdowns, you're effed.
Yeah, you're in a tough
situation there. It's okay if it's a big play of 20 yards and you hold him to a field goal or get a stop. But if it's a 57-yard touchdown pass because your defensive back's picking his ass, you're in big trouble. So I don't know what they could do. At this point, I'm living week to week. You need to get better in the bye week. You need to go bury Nebraska, which I think is going to happen. And you got to get ready for Penn State in 3 weeks.
Big one in that Penn State game, you mentioned the Josh Simmons injury. Could be, it sounds like, I think Ryan Day said after the game, not looking good for him coming back this year. So you're going to have a new left tackle.
Got to finish left tackle. Got to find it.
Who's going to be making his second start at left tackle in Happy Valley. If you thought that the crowd noise was bad for Ohio State in this game, what was it, 5-6 pre-snap penalties? It's going to be ratcheted up in Happy Valley, assuming Wisconsin takes care of business against Wisconsin. Wait, assuming Penn State takes care of Wisconsin after their bye week. Going to be a top 4 matchup in the AP poll heading into that game, depending on what happens with Texas and Georgia next week. So they're going to be jacked for it. I just I know the whole thing. This will be my last point on this because I know we got to move on. I don't want to spend the whole time on this game, even though we probably could. All of this talk in the offseason was about all these guys coming back. We're doing it because we want to beat Michigan. We're doing it because we want to win a national championship. You know who didn't come back? Marv. Do you think he cared about that any less than those guys did? You know why Marv went pro? Because he was good. He was a bona fide first-round pick. This dude skipped the combine and said, I stand on business. I'm not training for this nonsense. Look at my tape. You know how good I am. And he went 4th overall. Yep. If these guys, if JTT, if Sawyer, if Burke were any good, do you think that they really would have come back?
If they were first-round locks, no. Because you're not turning down first-round money. There's no shot in hell.
No, because you go pro, you start your NFL clock because the big money's in the second contract. You get there a year sooner. You get the guaranteed money. I know NIL money, blah, 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 whatever. That's not where the real money is. The real money's in the second NFL contract. But the other issue is you come back, you get hurt. That's not good for your draft stock. Or you come back and you put dog-ass film on tape, and all of a sudden you go from a guy who's being talked as a late first-round pick in Denzel Burke to, is this guy actually good? It reminds me of when did Sean Wade come back? When he was like, I want to play outside, and then he spent the entire year getting cooked and went in the 5th round. That's what that reminds me of.
He's no longer in the NFL. He might be on a practice squad, but
so yeah, you got guys getting burnt deep consistently by receivers who had 120, 138 yards or 82 yards, whatever he had coming into the game. You got defensive ends not getting pressure against an offensive line that had been a question mark for most of the season. And I get they made a couple changes. Oregon made a couple changes on their offensive line a couple weeks ago. And maybe this was the come up and we're having a different conversation about this at the end of the season because they're Joe Moore Award finalist or whatever. But coming into this, a lot of questions about that Oregon offensive line, and they won the battle in the trenches in this one. Ohio State, no sacks, only 2 tackles for a loss, gave Gabriel all day to throw it. Oregon, only 150 some odd yards on the ground, but they average 5 yards a carry. If you tell Dan Lanning before the game you're going to run the ball 30 times and average 5 yards a carry, I guarantee you he's taking that 10 out of 10 times. Mm-hmm. So
back to your point, and this will be my last one. On that defensive draft eligible talent, there was only one guy I think that could go in the first round. It's Tyleik Williams. That's the only guy. Of all that talent you have. Now, Caleb Downs obviously will be a future first-round pick.
He can't go pro.
But he's not draft eligible. Of the draft eligible guys, which is a ton on this defense this year, Tyleik Williams is the only first-round guy. He's the only one. Because he's the only one who shows up and plays. He's not even 5-star talent. I believe he's a 4-star. Maybe even a lower 4-star. I don't know. But he's the only one that shows up and plays like a first-round caliber talent on that defense. So... the saying goes, if you got to continue to say that guys were former 5-stars, they haven't done enough in college. That's because you're not talking about what they do in college.
That's the Bud Elliott transfer guide is if it's a junior transferring and you're talking about his high school recruiting ranking, it means he stinks at football.
Yep.
At a certain point, you're no longer a former 5-star player. You're just a
bad college player.
You are just
average
a guy.
College player.
You're a jag. That's what you are. You're just a guy. And
you remember this goes for everybody. A lot of these 5-star guys, people come in, I can't believe this guy busted and he didn't pan out. Well, when you're freakishly athletic and you're better than everyone you play, you don't have to be perfectly sound at your position. You see this a lot with defensive players. You're just way better athletically. You might have dominated everybody as a defensive end in high school. It's because you're so much better than them. Now you go against guys who are as good as you every week and you can't do anything. So therefore, it didn't translate because you're not that good.
Here's the thing about the star rating system that I don't think people fully understand is they're not basing it on if you're a good football player or not. They're basing it on your athletic potential, your testing numbers, because they're trying to project you to the NFL draft. Mm-hmm. That's why there's not a lot of 5-star running backs or tight ends anymore because it's not a value position. They don't say, hey, you might be really good, but we don't think you're first round good. And it has nothing to do with your ability to play football. Jalen Snead's a 5-star junior linebacker on Notre Dame who's probably their 5th best linebacker right now behind a bunch of true freshmen because when he was in high school, he was so athletic, they were basically like, Jalen, just go out there and run to the football. He had no idea how to play defense. And they spent 3 years trying to teach him how to play defense, and he still has no idea how to play defense. Doesn't matter if you're athletic, if you can't play within a, and this is I hate when fans do this on message boards on Twitter. They're doing it with what's his face, Jermaine Matthews, or the 5-star cornerback freshman. Why aren't they playing him? Probably because he can't play within the defense. Just because you were a 5-star doesn't mean you're good at football.
Are you talking about Matthews Jr. for Ohio State?
Yeah.
I think he is good enough. I think they're too damn stubborn to take Denzel Burke off the field.
Maybe.
That's what I think the problem is.
It's my least
the better example. The better example for that would be C.J. Hicks, the 5-star out of Huber Heights.
Okay, there you go.
Dayton.
So it's the thing that I hate because you're not in the locker room, you're not watching practice, you don't know what these guys are doing. Just because they're a 5-star doesn't mean they're good at football. Get it out of your head. That's not what it means. They're not playing for a reason. It's not because they hate you. They don't hate your favorite player. They're not doing it because they're trying to lose the game.
They're not good enough.
They're not good enough. Bingo.
Speaking of not good enough, you know what's not good enough, Ryan?
Well, Clinton,
USC in the
did you know that
quarter.
USC is like 5 plays away from being undefeated, Clinton?
Yeah, did you just call me Cleveland again?
No, I said Cleaton.
Okay. Well, yeah, I was going to say,
two people who confirmed that I did call him Cleveland last episode. So I'm going to have to.
USC had another fourth quarter lead, and guess what? They lost again. That's the third time in their Big Ten games they've led in the fourth quarter and lost, folks. Mm-hmm. Penn State walks in to, what is it? Memorial Stadium, whatever the hell they call it out there, and beat
United
USC
Airlines Field
33-30. Because they choked. Lincoln Riley is a choke artist.
Yeah, man. USC up 20-6 at the half, and the narratives were a start in Clinton on Twitter. James Franklin, this is what he does, can't win the big game. And within 10 minutes of the start of the third quarter, this ball game was tied.
Yeah.
Really, really gutty effort by Penn State in this one to come back and get the win. Late touchdown reception, Nicholas Singleton from Drew Allard tied the game with just under 3 minutes to go. USC missed a field goal in overtime, and then Penn State wins it with their own field goal. The story of this one, as Matthew in the chat noted, Tyler Warren, 17 catches, 224 yards, a touchdown. He snapped the ball to Bo Prabula, who threw it back to Drew Allard, who threw it to a streaking Tyler Warren. This was actually the second time this weekend. Actually, well, this would have been the first. This was one of 2 catches made by a center this weekend, Clinton. God damn it. Oh, no, it's in my head now. I'm in my own head.
Well, doesn't that just almost, we're talking about pass rush, doesn't that almost just like, it's like Penn State spitting in USC's face, like, you're too damn slow. We're going to snap it with a tight end to a backup quarterback, throw it to our starting quarterback. Tight end's going to run down the field while double covered and catch a touchdown pass. That is like the ultimate kick in the nuts to your defense. Like, we don't respect you because you're not good enough.
Yeah, man. So this is like, so first of all, for Penn State, I want to get to Penn State first because I feel like we're going to rant about USC like we just did Ohio State. So gutty, very gutty. I thought, Drew Allard threw, I think, 3 interceptions in this game.
Yep, 2 TDs, 3 picks.
I thought he actually played pretty good. Turnovers notwithstanding. I don't want to say, maybe it was his best game in a Penn State uniform, but almost 400 yards passing. He threw the ball 43 times. So they're trusting him to throw it more, which, when you're down 14 at halftime, you kind of have to throw it a little bit more, to be fair. But if that's something that Penn State is going to be able to take advantage of more, maybe tease out the turnovers next time, then it becomes a little bit more of a different conversation about this team and what their ceiling is. I don't know that it's going to be enough to beat Ohio State in a couple of weeks because it's going to be a pissed off Ohio State team. You can guarantee that. Well, maybe I thought we were going to get a pissed off Bama this weekend and we didn't. But again, I digress. But if they have a passing attack, that can get them to 11-1 easy. No doubt about it.
Playoff
on the schedule, and you're in the playoff. You might not be in the Big Ten title game, depending on what happens elsewhere, but you're in the playoff. You're probably hosting a first-round playoff game, and then at that point, anything can happen. So you just got to get better every week with that. And, they showed that they can come from behind. They showed that they can go on the road. Not that the Coliseum is the most difficult place to play. Sorry, USC fans, it's not. I've been there. It's not. But traveling the time zone, that's a tough road trip. They started slow. They fought back. Look, it's a talented, it's still a good USC team. I know the record says 3-3, but again, if they could finish a damn game, they would be 6-0 right now. And maybe that's the conversation that we need to have about Lincoln Riley, because at a certain point, bad luck starts to become a trend. And that trend is I don't know that they're a particularly well-coached team.
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to elaborate on that? Is
If
that where
you
you're
want
heading to me?
because
I was going to give a quick piece on Penn State, and then we can come bitch about USC.
Sure.
Tyler Warren may be the best player in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, good Lord. He's
Yeah,
a freaking
he's-
tight end. Like, we all thought Kyle Pitts. We were enamored with Kyle Pitts a few years ago. I am way more enamored with Tyler Warren, and I'm kicking myself in the shins for not taking him in college fantasy. Here's the two things on Penn State. Hell of a win, right? You started slow again. Another slow first half performance. You have to get rid of that. Ohio State will blow your doors off. Wisconsin's going to beat you, and I'm going to tell you why when we get down to them.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I was reading by people who know more than I do, Penn State's defensive performance was pretty subpar.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
They did not play well. They didn't get much pressure. They didn't do what we expected them to do. So if you combine a slow start and your defense doesn't play good for 4 quarters, you're not beating Ohio State. I don't care how good your crowd is. You won't beat Wisconsin at Wisconsin. You will lose those games. You have to get rid of this slow start stuff. I've seen numerous Ohio State teams be slow starting teams, and they trip up and they lose a game because of it. You're going to lose one. You're getting lucky. You're getting through it, and you played well. That was great. Props to Penn State. Hell of a start to the season. Now let's complain about USC. Lincoln Riley. I have a quote from him at the end of the game. And I quote, "The reality of it is if we've played the toughest schedule in the country, the first 6 games, and we've had a chance to win all 6 games," Riley said. "That's hard to do. So we're doing a lot of good. And I understand that good is not going to get seen by the outside right now because they're going to focus on the record and the fact that we've lost 3 games in the last play. Well, no shit, sir. Your record means everything. If that's not the most half-glass full crap I've ever heard, that's an excuse.
Buddy, that's
an excuse for you not being a good enough coach to win this game, to win these games, not this game, these games. You have to find a way to win.
If you're you're halfway into the season, you're already talking about, well, we're better than our record says we are. That is a bad place to be, man.
Well, here's the other thing. Let's back up before overtime. Penn State scores, USC gets the ball. They drive it right down to midfield. And they're just letting the clock run. Instead of calling timeouts, they had 2 timeouts. They just let the clock run. You know another quote he had at the end of the game? Well, we just didn't want to give Penn State the ball back with any time. Bro, step on their throat and go win the game.
Go get a touchdown.
You move the ball on them to midfield. Go win the effing game.
Oh, my God.
That's the softest shit I've ever heard. I'm going to call him Charmin Riley from now on. Mm-hmm. My God, not even Charm. He's quilted Northern. He doesn't get that top grade reply. He's quilted Northern. Get the shit out of here with those excuses. USC fans should be pissed about that comment because you had a chance to go put a dagger in them because even though they came back, you guys were still battling. You still moved the ball on them.
Yeah.
College kickers. Don't rely on college kickers, guys. I don't care if they've hit a few 50-yarders this year. Go win the damn game.
What does that say about the confidence you have in your defense?
Zilch.
There was 50 seconds left when they got past midfield and then let 30 seconds run off? Like, homie, if you scored, they were going to get the ball back with 20 seconds. You really thought that they were going to go down the field in 20 seconds and score on you?
75 yards in 20 seconds. With what? Because Penn State took a timeout at one point in there.
Yeah, because I think they were so
Penn
shocked.
State
They were like,
what are they not? What are they doing?
Boy.
Yeah, Lincoln Riley. I don't know. Do we have the "get out of my house" sound? Because that's what I want to do. Get him out of the Coliseum. This is ignorant crap.
No, I wasn't prepared. Oh
my God,
I'm so
dude.
Sorry.
Excuses.
So sorry.
What a loser!
Get out! Get out!
Gosh, come on.
What an idiot! Oh, what a loser!
No, that's just
it's embarrassing.
That's fan talk. That is fan talk. Like, hey, we're 3-3, but we actually could almost be 6-0. If your coach is the one saying that in public, buddy, that's not good. You cannot have your coach talking like that. You need to because that's oh my. They still have. Hold on, schedule. This is great radio. Because I don't want the Vivid Seats version of this schedule.
They have Notre Dame left.
We have Notre Dame left, but you got to go to Maryland next week. Like that is quite literally about the furthest road trip that you can make in the Big
team
Ten.
that can move the ball.
Then you have Rutgers, who I'm out on Rutgers, so we're not even going to consider that one.
We'll get to them here soon.
Then you're at Washington. If Washington
can move the ball,
I get Washington just got pasted, and we'll talk about them a little bit. But that was a weird body clock game. I'm not putting any stock in that. But yeah, Washington can move the ball. You have to play in Seattle. It's a tough place to play. You have a week off before you host Nebraska, who's going to try to beat your face in physically. Then you're at UCLA, which they didn't quite cover Clinton, but they got pretty damn close to covering that game against Minnesota. And then you have a Notre Dame team that could potentially be 10-1 and playing for their playoff life. So like, the way that this schedule shakes up, the physical teams that they have to play, they might not have a team left by the time. I mean, not like physically, literally have a team left, but they might just be a walking corpse by the time they get to Notre Dame.
Better call Bear Alexander and see if we get out of the transfer portal.
Yeah. Hey, buddy, come on back. We need you. So I just, it's going to be a fascinating conversation the rest of the year about USC because, again, they are good. I don't want to discount that. They could finish 9-3 from a talent standpoint, but from like a coaching and preparation standpoint, if they finish 6-6, Clinton, would you be surprised?
Not at all.
I
What
wouldn't
did we
be.
just talk about Ohio State with? Talent is great, but if the talent can't fire in a big game, you're going to lose. And it doesn't matter.
Yes.
Because 3 stars who want to outwork 5 stars who think they're way better than everyone is going to win games. That's why upsets happen, i.e. Vanderbilt over Bama.
Yes. Ain't that the truth? So it's going to be a fascinating watch for the rest of the year because if they finish 7-5, 6-6, even 8-4, I wonder what the
Then we called it.
Well, we did call
We
it.
said that.
We did. We did. Go us.
We saw this coming.
I wonder what the patience with the fan base for Lincoln Riley is. Or if he
keeps
just tries
making bullshit excuses at the end of comments like that at the end of the games.
Yeah,
They're not going to have any. For the ones who care, did you see the shot of the game at the start again?
No.
The stadium wasn't even halfway full.
No, Clinton,
What
it's
is
LA.
this stuff?
It's LA.
This is pathetic.
I told you before. I told you in the offseason, USC doesn't have fans.
God, it's embarrassing. For the ones who are loyal and show up and we interact with the loyal ones on Twitter, I'm sorry that you have to deal with that crap. Because that's BS, man.
I'm not.
Show up for your team, man.
They had the carry.
Come on.
That's enough. That's enough for the 21st century. They're fine.
The year 3000, USC wins another
Yeah,
championship.
there we go. I'll be long.
They'll be
gone
playing
by then.
flag football by then, folks.
Clinton, our road trip this weekend just got a hell of a lot
interesting.
more interesting.
Spicy.
Because Purdue has a pulse. They lost,
Dum, dum.
but when it looked like they were about to get run out of the building, they rebounded and they took Illinois to overtime and they lost because they tried to go for the win in 2, which, you know what, good for them. You stink. Might as well go for the
Go
win.
for broke.
But they didn't get it. Illinois 50, Purdue 49 in overtime. This was so I had Illinois on a couple of parlays this weekend because, again, as I said on the show, Purdue is an auto fade until proven otherwise. There was a point, I want to say midway through the third quarter. So Illinois jumped out to a pretty substantial lead in this one. It was 24-3 at halftime. They got a field goal on their first drive. It was 27-3. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, yeah, that sounds about right. Purdue they didn't really drive down the field. They got a 53-yard touchdown pass. Ryan Brown, who played pretty well in place of Hudson Card, who was out injured. A 53-yard touchdown pass to make it 27-10 on the literal next play from scrimmage. Why am I blanking on Luke Altmaier's name? Luke Altmaier got strip sacked, and it was returned for a touchdown. So this game, in a span of 7 seconds, went from 27-3 to 27-17. Purdue ended up with just took momentum from there, and they get a field goal again in the third quarter. So a nice 17-3 run in the third quarter to kick things off there. Illinois punched back in the fourth. They started trading scores. But Purdue, I believe they got an onside kickback, maybe? Yep. Had a couple of those this weekend. So they score. Devin Maccabee 2-yard run with 1:35 left in the fourth quarter makes it 40-35 Illinois advantage. They get the onside kickback, and then Maccabee scores on a pass from Ryan Brown. 43-40, Illinois drives down the field, kicks a game-tying field goal with no time left on the clock. First play of overtime, Pat Bryant from Luke Altmaier, 25 yards, and then the aforementioned stuff. we've seen this a couple times this year when a team goes to the backup quarterback, they get just like this weird spark of life that you don't expect. And they got that from Ryan Brown in this one. 18 of 26 for 297 yards, 3 touchdowns. He ran 17 times for 118 yards. Opened up the running game a little bit. Maccabee also went over 100 yards. Max Clare, they're pretty good tight end, 6 catches for 133 yards. And if this is the offense that they have moving forward, Clinton, I think that we're going to get an interesting game in West Lafayette on Friday night.
Yeah, that was my note here. Did Purdue find something with Ryan Brown? With concussion stuff, it's very likely that Purdue wants to see what they have with him, and they just hold Hudson Card out for one more week. Ryan Walters has no ties to Hudson Card. Ryan Walters is trying to find something to build his success on. And if Brown, the redshirt freshman, is the answer, then you roll with him. And he just opened up your offense beyond what we thought possible.
Yep.
And they look great.
We'll see.
99 points in a game between Illinois and Purdue. 99.
Was not
99.
on my bingo card. Not on my bingo
Good
card.
Lord.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Well, so, like, I get the guy shouldn't lose his job due to injury thing, but Hudson Card also has been pretty bad this year, and he should probably lose his job because he has not been good, if we're being completely honest. So I'm really good effort from Purdue in this one. I think we've kind of written them off as left for dead. They're at least spunky, which is fun. Other side of that coin is, you know what, they don't cover, but good for Illinois for kind of fighting back, getting momentum back and holding on.
You're going to need it next week.
And it was a weird kind of, I know Illinois coming off of a bye, your last time out, you had the tough game against Penn State, but then you got Michigan at home next week. So definitely a look ahead spot there. They came out good. They started fast. They had the big lead at halftime. They just, I don't know if they took their foot off the gas or what happened at halftime. Obviously the fumble was a big turning point in this game, but good for them. The matchup with Michigan and then the following week with Oregon will remain interesting. Because Illinois is still ranked number 22 still. So,
and to this point, Illinois played defense. Now they didn't play defense this weekend.
Not a lot of.
But you know what the solid verbal always says? Win your clunkers.
You got to win.
They won their clunker. What I was looking for in this game out of Illinois, we know they can pass. Altmaier again, Franklin and Bryant 1 TD each. I believe Bryant, right? Bryant went over 100. Franklin had like 60, 70 yards.
Yep.
What I was looking for in this game, though, Illinois needs to find balance if they're going to have. Let me get this quote here. Brett Bielema, we did enough bad things to give them the game. If you let a team stick around like that, that's what happens. But here's the piece I'm intrigued by. I still think we're a good team knocking on the door of doing something cool. So if you want to do something cool, like pull an upset against Michigan or Oregon, you have to be balanced. If you can't run the ball, they're just going to take your pass game away and you're going to get your ass beat. Unless your defense forces some turnovers. So what I looked for out of this was, first of all, was Caden Fagan going to have a big game? Well, he's a scratch.
He did not. He got hurt. He did not.
But the good news is they ran for 177 yards and 3 TDs as a team. They did the same thing. They had some running game against Nebraska. So they've had some pieces here. In 2 of their big games, we're going to call Purdue a big game because Purdue came back and almost won it. They've developed some run game. So you have to be balanced if you're going to beat Michigan and Oregon. If you're a one-sided team, all you can do is pass. They're going to pass rush the hell out of you and shut you down. I don't know if Birch is going to be back for that game, and that clearly hurt Oregon.
Yes.
Like, I know Mateo Uiagalelei and the other sophomore made some plays, but they're not Birch. They can't get past him. Mateo Uiagalelei reminds me of, I don't mean this to be a jerk, at this point, JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer. You can get there, but you're not consistent enough. Birch is consistent. He has 5 sacks on the season. He's a monster. So, Illinois, way to pull it out. You know, the Ryan Walters quote again here was, because we are control of the game, and at that point, we called back in the game, something we hadn't done this season, and I wanted to give us a chance to win. I hate losing. I like the aggressiveness. You're going for broke. You got nothing to lose on this season. Yep. I expect them to do a lot of funky, weird stuff next week against Oregon to try to pull one out. Yeah. And I expect if somehow this game came down to overtime, they had to go for 2 again, he'd do it because they need to pull the upset. Illinois, though, you got to be careful. I know there were turnovers. You were outscored 40-19 in the second half by an offense that is inept. Now, maybe not now. Maybe they found something. But we'll keep our eyeballs on it. I think you're right. I think it was a kind of a letdown look-ahead sandwich to what's to come for Illinois. They know they got to be ready next week, and they got to be ready the week after.
Yep.
If they can pull the upset against Michigan, look for them to give Oregon a hell of a game.
Yep.
That will not be a night game at Autzen. It will be daytime, but Look for them to give Oregon a hell of a game if they beat Michigan.
Yes. We'll talk about this on Thursday, so I don't want to get too far into it, but I already bet Purdue plus 28.5 this weekend.
Magic happens in West Lafayette, man.
Flash back to Friday night. Clinton, boy, did we call this one. Northwestern, Maryland 10. We didn't really call that. We said Northwestern would cover. But Northwestern has
Did
kind
more
of
than
sort
cover.
of they did more than cover. They kind of sort of have an offense now, and Maryland could not hold on to the football. 4 turnovers in this one for the Terps, 3 fumbles, 1 interception. They outgained Northwestern 355 to 283, but also when you keep getting the ball in plus territory, you don't really need to put up a lot of yards to score points. I watched this one because I also bet Northwestern because I'm a disgusting degenerate and I have nothing better to do on a Friday night. I really like watching Jack Lausch play football. He is growing on me. I thought that I was going to be out on him after that Washington game. He's looked good the last 2 weeks, man. I'm not sitting here saying like, hey, man, look out, 13 Big Ten or anything like that, but he makes them functional. He kind of like you were talking about with Will Howard, he can extend plays with his legs. I think he's not as big as Will Howard, so I think he's a little more shifty, a little more agile. But he's okay with taking off. He didn't do it as much in this one as he did against Indiana. He only had 24 yards rushing. Did have a rushing touchdown, but 10 of 18 passing, 203 yards. A couple of big plays to A.J. Henning and Bryce Kurtz in this one. He threw a couple good deep balls. He underthrew a couple deep balls too, and his guy was so wide open it didn't really matter. But really, really good performance in Northwestern from this one. Not so much from Maryland. I don't know. We kind of talked about preseason September Maryland because you better get your wins early because the back half of your schedule sucks. I don't know what the rest of the season is going to look like for Maryland here, Clinton. Billy Edwards is still good. He's fine. He's a good quarterback. The receivers are still good, but you got to hold on to the ball, man.
Well, they did the complete opposite of they had the complete opposite happen to them of what they did to Indiana. They got 4 turnovers 2 weeks ago? They couldn't score. Northwestern took the ball away 4 times, and Northwestern did score. So football's a weird game. It has points on both ends, so the ball bounces weird ways sometimes. Felton and Prather both held on 100 yards. Maryland had no ground game in this, 59 yards rushing. That's not going to get it done against a good defensive team. I'm with you on Lausch. I like watching the kid play. We did a at-home date night Harry Potter theme, which was really fun on Friday night, but I did get to catch a little bit of this game. And Lausch makes Northwestern's offense hard to defend, especially when Cam Porter's back there. It's been interesting to watch. I'm much more interested in watching Northwestern other than just the mistake by the Lake Stadium.
Yes.
You mentioned the second half of the season.
Well, Clinton, I think the last one is this week. You got to get in one more.
Yeah, got to get another one.
Moving to Wrigley.
We mentioned the second half schedule for Maryland. That includes USC, Minnesota, Oregon, Rutgers, Iowa, Penn State.
Yep.
You look at this team right now. Are there any gimmies there?
Nope.
There are no gimmies.
None.
USC's better than you.
Yep.
At this point, I think Minnesota's better than you. Oregon's way better than you.
Yep.
Rutgers is getting hard to believe in, but I still think Rutgers is better than you. Iowa's going to bury you, and Penn State's going to bury you.
Yep.
You may not win another game the rest of the year.
It is possible. It is possible that 3-9 is on the table for the Terps.
And Maryland's trying to get a 4th consecutive bowl berth. And I think right now you're looking at about maybe a 10% chance to get that.
That's going to be tough.
Because you got to get 3 wins, right? They only have 3 wins right now.
They only have 3 wins. And even if we're going to be charitable and say that there may be a toss-up with Minnesota and Rutgers, that means you're still going to have to upset one of USC, Oregon, Iowa, or Penn State.
Now, fourth quarter USC comes to play. All you have to do is keep it a game in the fourth quarter, and they'll blow it, and you'll beat them. And you keep it a game for 4 quarters.
What they really needed that game. The game's at 4 p.m. this week, and they really needed that to be a noon kick to get that weird the 9 a.m. body clock game that got Washington this weekend.
Can I introduce this next one? Because I think it's great. If we're done about that one, another Badger beatdown. We talked about last week. Was it just the fact that you played Purdue? I don't think so, because Rutgers just got murdered. Somebody got murdered, as Dan Rubenstein would say on the Solid Verbal. Badger beat down round 2. They just beat their ass, 42-7, start to finish. Locke threw some darts in this game. They attacked Rutgers deep to open them up a little bit. 240 yards passing, but guess what, folks? 311 yards on the ground rushing with 5 TDs. That is back-to-back weeks Wisconsin's offenses went 550 yards or more after not doing jack crap the first few weeks, looking inept. They have found a back in Tawee Walker. Dude is a monster.
He was good.
Here's the other thing. They swarm Monangai. They held him to 3.8 yards per carry. That's multiple times that's happened to Monangai this year. And then people will look at that because of who he plays for and say, well, he's not that good. No, it's because Rutgers doesn't have a passing game, to make people respect him.
Oh, my God, it's so bad.
Horrendous. Callie McManus, 12 for 32 in this game. But I also felt like he had 10 drop passes in this game. I watched this game. The receivers couldn't catch crap. They couldn't catch COVID if it was breathing on them. But here's my point that I wanted to brief in real quick, and then I want your thoughts on this game. This is why I said Penn State needs to be careful with their slow starts. For the past 2 weeks, since Wisconsin got erased by Alabama and had the bye week, Wisconsin has been a fast start team, and for the past 2 weeks has started out 14-0 in both weeks. You're going to go into Madison. If you get down 14-0, you're in big trouble because this could potentially be a 7:30 NBC game that Penn State's going to draw. And that's a night game in Madison. That crap's going to get crazy.
Oh, it's going to be
loud.
So
Penn State, I'm flipping back to you. You got 2 weeks to figure out your slow start stuff because Wisconsin's humming right now. They get Northwestern this week. Northwestern, we just gave them respect. They're not beating this Wisconsin team if this Wisconsin team shows up. Wisconsin's going to hang 40 on them. Like, they found something. Can they keep it going? I don't know, but they have found something. This team is impressive. Rutgers, I'm taking a hard pass on everybody on that team but Kyle Monangai, and I can't wait till he gets the hell out of there and goes to the NFL so that he can have a real team around him.
Yeah, I'm done. Well, the issue with their offense now, too, is their passing game is so bad. Like, you just load the box. They can't throw. Their receivers aren't good. Their quarterback's not good. That's not a good combination. So, we've given a lot of love to Rutgers over the last 4 months talking about this schedule, but I'm kind of out on them, man. If they make it to a bowl game, I suppose good season, but we were talking about this being perhaps one of the best seasons in Rutgers history. I don't know that that's going to come to fruition if you're playing like
just saying, guess who picked the Wisconsin against the spread? That'd be me.
Good for Clinton.
I knew it was coming. Wow, look at that pit sweat. Look at that right there. Get up in that. Holy cow. Wow.
Buddy, you need some new deodorant. That's nasty.
This is me my whole life, man. That's rough. That's nerves building for the Bengals game tonight. Malik Neighbors is out, so hell, maybe we'll win one.
There you go. I wonder if after Bama, they had a bye, which is probably the best time to have a bye when you just lose your starting quarterback. So we're now 3 games into Braden Locke, who's progressively looked like he looked fine against USC. We had the USC conversation. We don't need to rehash that again today. They still have athletes. They can still make you look bad. You had a good kind of tune-up game against Purdue last week. Maybe Purdue's a little bit better, but again, at the time we're sitting there thinking, hey, this is, impressive, yes, because you did it, but also it's Purdue, so who cares? Rutgers defense, I mean, I know they got some injuries going on, but it's still a pretty good defense. And he came out today, and if that's what the Wisconsin offense is supposed to look like, I feel like we've been waiting 18 months for it. That's not chronologically correct. It would be like 14 months. We've been waiting 14 months for it. Where you're passing the ball, you're spreading the ball out. I think my hot take is going to be that the injuries that they had at receiver last week was probably the best thing that could happen to them for developing some depth here because they spread the ball around well. They had 6 guys with multiple catches in this one. Will Pauling was fine. Vinny Anthony had a couple of long catches in this one. Trech Kekahuna was good again. So they got multiple guys that they can spread the ball out to. They got a running back now. They're looking like they have the makings of a well-balanced offense here. If they can continue to carry this forward against better defenses, I think Northwestern's defense is pretty decent. So it's going to be a good test for them this weekend. And the challenge for them is going to be, hey, you can't overlook Northwestern, because if they overlook Northwestern, then I think the Wildcats have at least enough to get them. But if they take that game seriously, you have some momentum then 3 straight wins heading into that home game against Penn State. The week before Penn State hosts Ohio State, you know those guys are going to be looking ahead of Wisconsin in that game. It's got the makings for an upset, man.
Yep. Sorry, my mic was on mute. Yes.
It's like they're interesting. Like they are a team that we have to pay attention. Like, I mean, we pay attention to all the teams, but like they're a team that we have to kind of take seriously here, just because of what they've shown. They're growing, and that's what you want as a team. Like, if you're a fan of a team, you want to see progress as the season goes along. And I get that it got stunted there because you lose the guy that you thought was going to be your quarterback, but they're showing it, man, and that has to be worth something.
On a team that we thought we were just a few weeks ago after blowing the game against USC saying
we were out. We were fully out.
Can they get to 6 wins? This team looks like they're going to get at least 6 wins, if not more, because of what they're doing, because they always play defense.
Yep.
When your offense can't do anything, your defense is on the field too much, and then they get beat. Well, you can't blame the 11 on the defense if their ass is on the field for most of the game. They're freaking tired, man. They can only do so much.
So Clinton, not only do they host Penn State in a couple of weeks, but they also host Oregon on November 16th. You know it is going to be cold as hell there for that game. And this is after Purdue, Jesus. Well, they do play Purdue next week. But this is after Oregon has a run in consecutive weeks of ranked Illinois, currently ranked but may not be ranked at the time, Michigan, in Ann Arbor, Maryland, which, whatever, that's Maryland. But then they got to come back out here. So that's 2 road trips to 3. That's 3 road trips out here in 6 weeks.
Yep.
We've seen it with some of these. We saw it with Stanford this weekend at Notre Dame. That's a lot of road trips on a team coming out here, and that takes a toll on you. I don't know if, like, y'all listening to this, if you fly a lot, but that messes with your internal clock consistently going from Eastern time to Pacific time.
Yep.
So that could be fascinating. I'm really excited.
I did say, if we flash back, and I said, regardless of what happens, Oregon, Ohio State, I think Oregon loses one of the 2 Wisconsin or Michigan games. At this point in time, it looks it's more likely Wisconsin because Michigan doesn't think the forward pass has been invented yet. No. So, but you know who did throw a forward pass this weekend?
Iowa.
Cade McNamara.
He did.
He only threw 14 passes in this game and only completed 8. But guess what? 2 of those 8 for touchdowns.
They're running the Michigan
completed
offense.
Some TD passes.
It's last year's Michigan offense.
And they have the defense to do it too. Absolutely just hand the ball to Caleb Johnson. First, I want to give a quick shout out. Kirk Ferentz moved into sole possession of 2nd place on the Big Ten's all-time wins list. He's now 5 behind the all-time leader, Woody Hayes. He has 200 wins, career wins as a Big Ten coach. Pretty damn impressive for a guy that plays with no offense. You mentioned it. Caleb Johnson, 3 total TDs. He averaged 7.9 yards per carry. He helped me beat your ass in college fantasy this week.
You did do that. That did happen.
That's my revenge for the title last year, but it's only a half glass full approach because I did win the title and I'm winning a in-season game now. But
yeah, buddy,
Caleb Johnson's a monster.
The way this is going.
Yeah. Iowa's defense, too, they were back to Iowa D. 4 sacks, 5 TFLs, 1 INT, 1 fumble recovery, 1 blocked field goal. If this is the team that shows, we knew what was going to happen to Ohio State. We knew what was going to happen in that game. If this is the Iowa team that shows up the rest of the way, they're not losing another game. They're 10-2, and I'm telling you, it's going to come down. Ole Miss is going to lose another game. It's going to be Iowa 10-2, Ole Miss 9-3. I told you it would happen beginning of this season. And then they'll freaking pick Ole Miss over Iowa, but that's for another day.
Clinton, buddy, Iowa's not even going to be. Iowa's going to be 10-2. They're not even going to remotely be in this discussion for the playoff.
Probably not, unless there's chaos.
They do not. They will not have a ranked win.
What if they win convincingly though?
They will not have a. They will have 0 ranked wins.
Yes, true.
They're going to be borderline top 25 team.
Jonah Coleman, solid day, 9 carries, 80 yards, 8.9 yards per carry. Washington, we brought this point up. Would they continue to use Damon Williams? They did. I like that. Again, you're stalling in the red zone. You have penalties. You're relying on a kicker who's unreliable. They were shut out pretty much for most of the second half. They were stopped 3 times on 4th down as they tried to rally to win the game or come back.
Yep.
They get a bye week before they got to come back out again. Now, the good thing is you get the bye week, but you're coming back to play Indiana, who could be off a big win against Nebraska next week. It doesn't get any easier, but I'm with you. I think this was a body clock game. Washington is a good team. You came off a huge win against Michigan that you had to battle for 4 quarters, and you got to go in and play Iowa. This was not set up nicely for you. This was set up for you to lose. But that was my thoughts on the game. Iowa looks good. I still think Washington's a good team.
No, I agree, and we kind of talked about it. When I made this pick, at least I said this is for football reasons. I think they're pretty evenly matched, but it's a bad spot for Washington on the schedule, given who they played last week, and given that this game kicks off 9 a.m. local time for them. And Iowa took advantage, man. It looked like the Iowa team that we saw last year with a little bit more offensive punch because their running back is a beast and he's one of the best players in college football. Absolutely. I liked after the game, too, someone asked him, they're like, do you think you're among the best running backs in college football? And he's like, there's some really good guys out there. I just try to play my game. Love that.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
And you know what I think for Caleb Johnson, too? I don't think he's just a college running back. He needs to be a good NFL back.
I agree.
And I don't know this perfect, but we'll have to get some draft guys on around draft time to talk about, and maybe we'll do a couple episodes this year on that stuff. But I think Caleb Johnson is legit NFL running back talent.
He's big.
Because he may be the best running back in the Big Ten. That's saying a lot.
Yeah, like he can catch the ball out of the backfield. That's something that you look for. I don't watch these games closely enough to know how good he is pass blocking, but I know that's another big thing.
Iowa doesn't pass enough.
Well, that's fair.
You get a good read. 14 passes in a game. You're not getting a whole lot of look at his pass
That might be a
blocking.
knock on him. We don't know if you can pass block because we've never seen it happen because your offense never passes the ball. But if he can do, because that's a big thing, especially early career guys. I think that's why Kyron Williams caught on so early with the Rams. I know he missed his rookie year with an injury, but because he's a really good pass blocker. And if you can do the little things like that, that's going to get you on the field early with a lot of these coaches. So his career will be fun to watch. He's going to be someone to snag in a rookie draft at some point.
Absolutely. We got one more beat down to cover.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. After each team had their first drive in this game, I bet Stanford straight up to win.
I watched the first part of that game. I was worried for your sake that Notre Dame was going to lose. They look like ass.
So I need to start profiting off of this because they do the same thing every game. Is the scripted drive against Notre Dame's defense goes remarkably well because coaches save shit for Notre Dame that they've never run before. Mm-hmm. They just pull out the wildest stuff and they score. I don't know the number. I haven't looked. I probably could have confirmed this before we came on, but I'm pretty sure A&M got a field goal on their first drive. NIU had a fluke-ass touchdown on their first drive. Louisville scored on their first drive. Stanford scored on their first drive. Miami almost scored on their first drive. I think they threw an interception or something, but Notre Dame's not very good defensively on the first drive, and then they're incredible for the rest of the game. So to give you an idea, the first drive for Stanford in this one, I went backwards. It went for 63 yards. Mm-hmm. They had 200 total yards in the game, Clinton. They had 137 yards the rest of the game after the first drive. And Notre Dame's first drive was awful, and it was actually not that bad. There was a holding penalty that probably wasn't a holding penalty that negated a pretty big play, and then the drive stalled from there because Notre Dame doesn't have a passing game that can overcome a 1st and 20 situation, which is unfortunate. Big takeaway for me in this one, I don't have any takeaways regarding Notre Dame's defense because they remained really good.
It's very good.
And fortunately, no one else suffered a serious injury, which that's been kind of the thing for Notre Dame is they're losing one guy a game at this rate. But Riley Leonard actually threw the ball pretty well.
3 passing TDs.
They finally learned what a slant is. He threw two. They had this. They got Stanford on, and I get the bar is on the ground. Let me be clear on this. The bar is on the ground for this. Stanford's pass defense sucks. It's one of the worst in the nation. But the fact that they actually did something is encouraging because they've played some pretty crappy teams so far and didn't really do anything. So that's still progress. Down in the red zone, they ran this RPO concept where everyone thought that he was going to give the ball to the running back or keep it because that's what they've done all year. And he hit first. It was Jaden Thomas and then Chris Mitchell, both for touchdowns. He had a deep ball to Bo Collins in this one. Good balance from the running game for Notre Dame in this one. This game got delayed after the third quarter for Lightning. I'm like, why don't you just call the game now? It's 42-7. This is stupid. But I'm glad they played the fourth quarter because it was all the young guys, and I really enjoy watching that. Notre Dame's backfield is going to be a problem for years to come because their 2 freshmen look like Kyron Williams and Audric Estime were reincarnated, which is I'm excited for, but Jeremiah Love has bursts that I've not seen from a Notre Dame player in my lifetime. He is fast. He is explosive. He needs more than 6 carries moving forward. They rotate him in Price, so I guess it's fine. But if they can continue to take steps forward in the passing game like they showed in this one, and they don't play fantastic pass defenses to at least close the regular season, They might win out, Clinton. I'm not there yet. They got Georgia Tech this weekend, and then they have to play Navy, who's now ranked and who's really good.
Unbeaten.
That's going to be a tricky
Army.
game, but then they have a bye after that before they play Florida State. If they get through the bye 7-1, I might start drinking the Kool-Aid again. I have been out. I've been hedging my emotions here, and I don't know. These sons of bitches might drag me back in.
They're tempting you, and then
They
they're
are.
going to stub their toe again. They're going to piss you off.
I mean, that's right. That's when it always happens. You go right back in, and that's when they break your heart again.
Well, you kind of hit my points. My other one was just I'm glad I said A.O. Manor in college fantasy because Notre Dame held him to 3 catches for 16 yards, and he is a star receiver. Problem is when the rest of your offense isn't that great. I know we talked about another receiver, and you're going against really good defensive backs, then you have trouble. I said the same thing. Notre Dame's got to be ready. The schedule's about to ramp up again. Georgia Tech is tricky. They're plucky. They're plucky. Unbeaten Navy. You may get it's unbeaten at this time, but unbeaten Army. And you don't know what USC you're going to get.
Yep.
It's a rivalry game, so I don't say throughout the records. I don't say throughout the records, but respect the rivalry game, right?
They always play poorly in LA too. They finished in LA in both 2012 when they went undefeated and 2018 when they went undefeated against just god-awful USC teams. And they played like shit and almost lost both of those. The 2012 game was a Max Wittick game. I don't know how I remember that. This is like a seminal memory of my senior year of college. This was like it was like a 1st and goal at the 5-yard line. And they threw 2 fades, and Kavari Russell took a PI on both of them because he got beat. He's like, screw it, I'm just going to drag your ass down. USC ran like 7 plays in a goal-to-go situation and did not score. It was like the goal line stand of all goal lines. Well, it was the second best goal line stand of that season, but that defense was nasty. And then they got wiped by Bama a couple weeks later, but we're not going to talk about that. Yeah, man. No, I'm like the issue with Georgia Tech, Navy, and Army, it's not that Notre Dame shouldn't beat them because they're clearly more talented from a physical standpoint, but their offenses are just so weird. Schematically,
hard to prepare for.
Yes, it is hard to prepare for. So,
and then USC, if they can play a 4-quarter game, has the athletes to challenge Notre Dame's defense.
They do.
Other people haven't. They have the athletes. I would also love to replay that Notre Dame Texas A&M game now.
No, I was because
A&M is rolling.
Well, because Garrett's on 3 Techs and A&M fan. We were talking a little bit about that before, and it's like it's 2018 all over again when Notre Dame beat Michigan to open the season, and then by week 8, people were like, "Oh my God, Michigan's better than Notre Dame." We're like, "No, they're not. They literally played a game this year and they lost. That's not how this works." Yeah. But I was talking with Garrett, and I'm like, I mean, if they played this weekend, Notre Dame's had so many devastating injuries since that first game. I am almost confident that A&M would win that game now. Like, Notre Dame does not have a pass rush. And Howard Cross and Riley Mills stepped up in this game. I think they combined for like 3.5 sacks in this one, and they're going to absolutely need that moving forward because Notre Dame's down their 2 best rush ends. They're relying on a lot of young, inexperienced, talented, but inexperienced guys, and maybe they get better as the season goes along. But there's just, like, from a manpower standpoint, it's just not as good of a roster as it was coming into the year.
Yep.
To wrap us up, Clinton, Minnesota 21, UCLA 17. The Gophers have officially conquered LA in this one. The back and forth game in this one. Minnesota scores late to seal the game. I once again came away kind of impressed with UCLA's fight. Again, I don't think they're particularly great, but they play hard. And they almost got Minnesota in this one, but credit to the Gophers. They get the 4-yard pass, Darius Taylor, touchdown with 27 seconds left in this one. Max Brosmer in the 4th quarter of games is Montana. He saves his best for last, which, I mean, there's something to be said for that. So if you can kind of hang around, look out for the Gophers in the 4th quarter, Clinton.
Yep. Absolutely. I was going to just say Minnesota and Penn State did something Saturday that few teams were able to do in the Pac-12, defeat USC and UCLA on consecutive weeks. The Gophers and Nittany Lions became the first team to do so since Utah in 2018.
It's impressive.
What else was I going to say here? The Bruins are the 6th Power 5 team since 2000 who haven't scored 20 points in their first 6 games. The last to do that was Colorado in 2022 when it failed to reach 20 in its first 7 games.
Wow.
That's not to knock UCLA. They're a try-hard team right now. They're trying really hard. They're going to get one. They're going to get one.
No,
and I just wanted to shout out Coy Parrish.
He's good.
He has
I think
arrived
he's
2 INTs in this game.
tied for second in the nation in interceptions.
Yes, and the Gophers are tied for the NCAA lead with 13 interceptions with UNLV and Cal.
How about that?
Minnesota plays defense.
They do
Brosmer
play
plays the
defense.
fourth quarter.
They
Dangerous
also play
little
the
team.
fourth quarter. Yep. They and they've got some runway here, Clinton. Bye week this week before hosting Maryland, traveling to Illinois, traveling to Rutgers, before another bye week and finishing up hosting Penn State and traveling to Wisconsin. So it could be a fascinating end of the season for the Gophers here, man. 7 games already down there, 4-3. I think the over/under win total was 5. So they probably should get to a bowl game with this remaining schedule. I mean, it could be tough. I think there's a lot of toss-ups on this schedule, but they've certainly shown an affinity for closing out games, which not everyone in the Big Ten has done that. So there's something to be said for that.
And it is I would say it's just a fun week 8 ahead for the Big Ten, man.
Oh boy.
Got us traveling to West Lafayette for Purdue, Oregon Friday night. Maybe we'll see some magic. Nebraska at Indiana for big noon kickoff. We're having Sammy on tomorrow night to talk with us.
Yep.
And Michigan travels to a ranked Illinois. It's the only ranked Big Ten matchup of the week.
Yes.
So we got some solid slate again, not to mention Georgia, Texas, Alabama, Tennessee.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
Woohoo, baby.
That's going to be
What
fun.
a good, fun week this is.
Yes. So yeah, we'll talk a little bit about our weekend plans on Thursday's show. We're going to try to do some, not any like necessarily live stuff. Maybe if or maybe if Purdue wins that game or plays it close, we'll go live on YouTube on the drive back to our hotel from my car. But that should be fun. If you're a Purdue fan or an Oregon fan making the trip, listening to us, hit us up. We'll say hi, interview you or something. I got microphones from my phone. But yes, so Sammy from Hoosier Huddle, who joined us preseason to talk Indiana, is going to hop on with us tomorrow to recap what has been an eventful first half of the season for Indiana. They're up to 16th in the AP poll. They are bowl eligible, and they are big prove-it game against Nebraska this weekend. So we'll kind of talk through that, preview that game a little bit, and talk about, I have a couple of fascinating expectation questions for him because I'm curious where the fan base's head is at. I re-listened to our preview with him, the first 10 minutes of it, and it was really funny listening to him. He's like, yeah, I mean, it'd be great. If they should make a bowl game, it would be, probably bad if they didn't, but I don't think it'd be a devastating failure. And now we're sitting here 6-0, and people are talking about Indiana as a playoff outsider. So that'll be a fun conversation, guys. You won't want to miss it. If you're still hanging out with us 80 minutes later, thank you. You're beautiful, and I appreciate you. As always, you can find us in your podcast feed, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your shows. We're at Inside the Pylon, a Midwest college football podcast there. Make sure you are subscribed so you can get notified whenever these episodes drop. And drop yourself a star and a rating, a review, whatever you call them, because we would appreciate it. That'd be very nice. Follow us on the socials, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at ITPCFB. Aside from tonight when we're going live so Clinton can go watch the Bengals play the Giants now, we typically are going... It
was originally aimed to try to get my kids to bed before this. My wife's going to murder me because we went longer than I said we would.
Oh, well, we'll leave it at that then. 9 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night, guys. Stop on in. It'll be a fun episode you won't want to miss. Thanks for tuning in again. We'll see you guys tomorrow night.
See you guys.